Today is holy moly, April 24th, 2024. And Austin and I are going to be doing these little mini podcasts every day. That's right, every day. Like getting the stuff going on all, and because sometimes programming can come on where you need to appear perfect. And yeah, in a perfect world, I would love to appear perfect. I'd love not to have any acne. I'd love to be in like my super fancy clothes and all that. But then sometimes circumstances happen. It's overcast here today in Stockton, and that's groovy. And I'm in my luteal phase. I'm perimenopause and in the luteal phase. For those who don't know all the phases, it's right after ovulation. And what I'm really noticing as I'm going through life's changes is I ovulate and I turn into a different person. And so I've really been navigating that, and I've been having a very supportive partner in Austin also helping me to navigate that, because he truly sees it. He sees it in the behavior, in my moods. And so it's for me the sign of taking the radical responsibility for my health and for my wellness going forward. And what is the best support for me? I am a registered nurse, but I tend to really not go down the Western route very much anymore. And instead I do more of the holistic route and work with different holistic practitioners, and also supplements and natural ways of eating and a lot of self-awareness, because I just noticed that's what feels really good to me, and that's what like really I enjoy, instead of having a doctor's office tell me what they think is wrong with me versus I can tell them, no, this is what I've figured out in my journey. Like here's one of the good examples. So what I'm noticing right now in my journey, and I didn't say anything to Austin the last couple of months, but then finally I'm saying something, is that I ovulate and I go into the luteal phase, and I tend to notice I get a lot more puffy around my stomach area after I ovulate, which makes sense. There's like the inflammation, and there's also like hormones that aren't firing correctly. And I'm not going to sit here and name through the hormones and all of that, because sometimes you get too tied up in the titles, and you get too tied up in like the actual hormone and all of that. I mean, also the luteal phase, that's your third week of your period generally, or in your cycle. So anyway, what I'm noticing though is literally I ovulate, and I want to know if any other women can report this and put it in the comments. I ovulate and I start pissing my pants. Okay? I start pissing my pants. Every sneeze, every cough, every bending over, every belly laugh, I piss my pants. This morning it happened while we were filming some content. And I had a pad on. It didn't matter. It was bad. It was like dripping down my legs. And I was like, what is going on? So today we have the diaper on. Depends. And I'm grateful. But I'm just noticing that the 2 weeks after, I have to be wearing the pads all the time. Part of my awareness with this is that I have gained about 20 pounds. And so I think that's putting the pressure on my bladder. I notice when Austin and I will go take walks, it's coming out, even though I'm not able to
The
urine. I'm not able to pull it in with the Kegel exercises and stuff like that. And like I said, the only thing that I can figure out when I sit and with my body and imagining it all going on is just this inflammation that's going on, even this swelling, the stomach being puffy and bloated. But I'd love to know from others if you're experiencing this and what your remedies are. Because like I said, I'm trying to really do a lot of holistic things, a lot of stuff that with Austin's support also. Obviously I've gotten consulted to go and have the surgery and have mesh put in, but right now I'd like to lose the 20 pounds that I've put on, the perimenopause weight, because I do feel better when I don't have that on. And then the other thing too is I'm like recommitting to an exercise routine, ritual, especially with lifting weights, because I was doing that last year about this time and I was doing really well. I was great moods. The perimenopause, the hormone stuff wasn't really affecting me as much. And then
you were like moving your body.
Yeah, I was moving my body.
When you move your body, you move emotions. And in each phase of cycles, different emotions come online.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, and that's a lot of what happens is that once I ovulate, the emotions that come on are like very old suppressed emotions. They're very like not in my highest good power. It's more like the old shadowy parts of myself. So I've really had to lean into those, because a lot of it is stories and constructs and stuff that's not true. It's wanting to blame others. I can tell you like things come on and I want to blame him, and I'm like, oh, that's not his issue. It's my issue. So I just noticed it's like certain behaviors.
Also, like in perimenopause, after ovulation, like your hormones drop much faster than they would
Right.
previously.
Right.
And with that, I was doing some reading that can like make you like feel like a little issues with the bladder, because it changes when the hormones change, it also changes the electrolytes in the system. So like muscle contraction, tightness, looseness, you know, what do they say, like tight versus strong, you know? Especially with like pelvic floor PTs, they talk a lot about, is it strong or is it tight? Because there's a difference, right? So like, just even on my own healing and pelvic floor work that I've done, I've learned a lot about Shelly's body with the pelvic floor and the hormones and everything, and trying to find balance in each cycle or each phase of the cycle.
But then just being more open and honest with you, because last night we were talking about filming all of this, and I was like, no, I'm not in a good enough mood.
So
I don't feel good. I didn't want to be in camera. And then this morning I literally just was like, let's just film. I'm like, I'm going to show up as all versions of myself, because it's like, there is not like one exact version, and that's just it. My entire life I masked myself. Deep down I might have been smiling, but in my head I was like cussing you out, or like hating you, or hating me, or whatever was like, you know, going on in my mind, just because I masked. And now instead it's like, I know how to handle my emotions, like my nervous system, to know, okay, this is what I'm capable of doing today, this is what I plan on doing. And then I just realized I'm just going to show up like in my authentic way. I'm going to show up. See, even my cat, on cue, the cat is here eating, because I was all like, what if the animals jump up here? And it's no, just get on and just start talking. And it's like, that's just it. You don't always have to have this perfect thing, this perfect situation. And that's just it. When there's challenges or whatever, I always ask the universe, like, what is the universal thing going on here? Like, what's the common thing? What can I take away from here that's a positive thing, instead of going in on the negative? Because, you know, for 18 years when I spent in a really high volume emergency department, it was all negative. So it was always like jumping to the conclusion of what now, and I mean that in a very like, you can't keep up with life. And so now instead I'm more grateful to say, okay, there's some messages here, and what are the messages that I'm getting that the universe is letting me know, or like certain behaviors and stuff like that. Anyway, that's why I'm showing up in all versions. And then also, like, women do have cycles, and we do act different on different times of the month.
Well, even seasons too, right? Like,
and the moon cycles. We've really noticed the moon cycle stuff.
So right now it's a full moon. Shelly is 4 or 5 days post ovulation, and in between that time and her period could be 14 days, 20 days, 10 days, 5 days. So it's kind of going with the flow of that. And what can I do? What can Shelly do to support herself through that time, to get work done or do things for herself when she wants to shut down or run away and hide?
Right, go back to old behavior that used to serve me, instead of just being like honest and truthful and needing my own space and my own time. And even just to be like, I want to go and be creative and do something. I think being creative helps. Yes.
I also think moving your body helps, especially in those phases. I was invited to a women's group a week ago to talk about AI and how to use it. We ended up talking about how to use AI during different phases of their cycle so that they're supported, because if you leave the 9-to-5 world where you use caffeine and sugar to regulate your nervous system throughout the day, and then suddenly you're an entrepreneur and you could literally sleep all day if you wanted to. But if you wanted to do that, how could you stack the deck in your favor beforehand, so that in your luteal phase, when you know you just want to do that, you still have content going out, you still have customers, they're getting things answered or whatever. Like right now, we're filming this, and then later I can do the workup on this. But like part of it is like Shelly showing up however she is, wherever she is, and just honoring and embracing yourself for who you are. And you could see it in her January group. Every day she did a video, and literally you could see her different phases of her life of the month in the thumbnails of each video.
Yeah, you really could.
it was wild to
And then
see
by the
that.
end, it was like an embodiment. And I had actually had a whole bunch of ideas for some other groups, and I started getting going on them, but then I didn't stay consistent. I didn't have self-discipline. There was a whole multitude, and then what I really noticed was some old behaviors started coming back online, some old like patterns, shadows, and so it's working through those because I recognize that they don't serve me. They hold me back. They're other stories, they're other constructs. They have nothing to do with me anymore. It's just that subconscious feeling that my body remembers. It's easier to just go into that. But then that's why it's important to understand your energy and what drains your energy and what like fuels your energy.
Like when the old versions come online, it's because they want to be seen, heard, and loved, right? Mm-hmm. Like the inner teenage Shelley that just wants everyone to go away or fuck off.
Right.
And how do you include her in right now, today? It's make her feel safe, seen, and heard. Like, what did she need? Did she need to move her body? Did she need to feel comfortable in her body? Did she need to fuel her body? Because what we're learning is... so we came from a long line of emotional eating, and we realized we used food and candy and soda and whatever to ground us or regulate our nervous system. And when things get busy, sometimes we revert to that and we're like aware that's what we're doing, and we're like, we give ourselves grace and be like, oh, that's a cool trick. That's a really cool trick. But is it your only trick? No. Like right now we're getting back to yoga, so we're doing yoga for face with Renee, where it's your life shows up in your face after 40, right? And now I'm like, okay, I'm 40. I'm like, I gotta work on this. And so we're like getting back into our body. That's a trick. Breath work, that's a trick. It's not like a trick, it's like part of your tools in your toolbox.
Right.
And so it's like when Shelley has her like day 3 of her period, like she's ready to go all the way through about a day before she ovulates. And you can literally see it, feel it, energy. And I'm like, okay, but that's the time to make content. That's the time to put out our offers. That's the time to do all these things. But then when Shelley's feeling good, she wants to play around, right?
Yeah, I then
so
want to experiment. But I mean, I think you helping to hold structure, because then the other thing too, and we're going to talk about it at greater length, is that I have late diagnosed ADHD. And
that's a whole nother
It's a whole nother thing. And then when I look at it, I've had it my entire life. And
I
saw
something last night that was
not compromised. What's the other word? I just figured it out, but really what happened is I like developed like all of these habits and these issues and these problems like no one ever saw it at all because I was super high functioning and hid it all. But that's also partially because the medical system does not ask the right questions. They don't ask like what's going on in your mind and is it scrambled or is it this? And like when you describe brain fog, it's like you need to be like more specific if you can. But that to me, that's a symptom when you can't be specific. When you can't be specific about something, I'm like, hello, that's the brain fog. And that's also not being able to tap into your emotions because you've completely like exhausted the feminine part of yourself, and then your masculine, which is your ego, has hardcore taken over, and then you're not able to blend the two and tap into, the more emotional side of yourself to speak your truth and to receive the help that you're seeking. Or that's a whole nother.
So what do you do with this information, right? And it's like, I saw a woman last night posted something. The thing that helped me with my ADD the most was just getting the diagnosis, because then she was like, okay, now I know some things to try. It's not like, she wasn't saying like the diagnosis was defining her. Like, she was saying like, okay, now I could try some of those tools to see what might help. The yin and yang symbol, right? There's the masculine and the feminine, and there's the masculine within the feminine, and there's the feminine within the masculine. It's like, how do you chase it around and find balance during different parts of the phases? And like, a lot of people like just say, oh, men they have 24-hour cycle, testosterone, we're done, goodbye. So, no, when you start like leaning into it and you get grounded and you're like following the moon cycles as a man, and you're following like new moon, put out new intentions, full moon, release emotions, and you do that as a man in the month, in your cycle, in the moon, you can see that men have also a seasonal cycle. Like, now we have sunlight for longer part of the day. Now we can take more vitamin D3, make vitamin D, make more testosterone, cortisol levels go down because there's more sunlight. So men typically see more work output in the spring and the summer, right? But like we've been in society where it's very 9 to 5, and we've used, in Michael Pollan's book Caffeine, he talks about this, where caffeine was found to provide more consistent output for all of the workers back in the 1910, 1920. And that's how we ended up with the 15-minute breaks, is through a lawsuit. And the employer didn't want to pay for those 15-minute coffee breaks, but clearly the employer was benefiting from the 15-minute coffee breaks, and therefore they were paid breaks. So it's like you're using caffeine to help regulate your nervous system so you can have consistent output, but then you end up crashing out anyway. You always pay the price with caffeine, right? But those are some good tricks and tools throughout these cycles for men and for women. And as a supportive spouse, it's like when Shelly's like kind of crashing down after she ovulates, and okay, what do you want to do? Let's see your goals that you wrote in the new moon before you were ovulating. Let's see what your goals were, so we could like keep working on those
Meaning
things.
I have to, so there are things that I appreciate the structure that Austin provides in the sense of utilizing my powers, meaning my energy, for those 2 weeks, and having the ideas, and then rolling out like how are we going to get them done, accomplished, etc. during those times when I have my superpowers going on. Because I'm just saying, the energy drop once the ovulation occurs for me is like something I can't describe to people. It is, I'm working very diligently, very hard. I'm taking a lot more supplements. They are definitely helping. That's why I see that I need to add the exercise and the weight lifting, and being around like really positive, enthusiastic people. And then food, I still think, is one of those things that very deep subconsciously. At one point, I weighed over 300 pounds. And so I use food in so many ways to regulate my nervous system, that even now I like to still use food. And it certainly is not in the ways in which I did before. And now it's more treating the food as the nutrient, as the not for pleasure. I mean, it's okay for pleasure, but that's how my body thinks, is to treat food as pleasure. So then I'm craving all of these other food items that aren't necessarily great for me on an everyday basis.
Are you craving the nutrient content of the food, or are you creating the chemicals within the food?
And that's very possible it's the chemicals, and I've realized that, especially as we stopped eating out as much as we used to. We eat more here at home and make our own. Like, we really started noticing when we went and ate out, we could taste the chemicals. We don't find that more in the mom and pop places, but we definitely find that in your Chipotle's, your chain restaurants. Like, I'm convinced they add stuff to, maybe it's MSG, I'm not sure, but they add stuff to it to taste the same.
There's all, like, I used to work in the food chemistry business, and there's things called GRAS, generally recognized as safe, and there's processing aids that don't really have to be disclosed because they are generally recognized as safe. But the more you process stuff, the more things get added or taken out, and so you have to find balance of all that with your food. So like what we have found with her in particular in her different phases of her cycle is she needs different macronutrients, different micronutrients, different electrolytes depending on where she's at in her cycle. And what's interesting is to like as a chemist, it's been interesting to dive into that, because I get to have this experiment here at home with me, and we get to play around.
But I will be honest, there are times I'm like telling him like screw off, and I'm like angry, and I don't want his help and all this other, because I don't know. Sometimes it feels like very mansplaining, but I know that he's doing it with the highest good and intention. But then there's sometimes there's just parts of me I don't want to hear it. Like, I just want to sit in my own shit. And sometimes that's what I have to do.
That going back to the yin and yang symbol, the masculine within the feminine, like I can hold her, but at some point she has to hold herself.
Right, and that's where I'm working on the holding of myself, and then also like when I'm consenting to wanting help and not consenting, because the other part of me is very much used to just complaining and expecting somebody else to solve my problem.
Well, like that,
I don't know if anybody else can relate to that, or maybe you had family dynamics where it was the same thing, where the man was the structure in the family which held together the female matriarchy, so the mother or whomever, regulating her nervous system. So any issue that came up got jumped on the man. And so that was something, I know that's like a codependent thing, it's an attachment thing. And so that's really something like leaning into to not be so dependent on that. And also Austin being aware and saying, hey, I want you to try and figure it out first. And then if you really need, I will step in and help. Because otherwise then the codependent relationship just continues, because his nervous system is also wired, because he witnessed the same thing in his house where the mom calmed the father's nervous system. So then it's this programming thing, feeling, oh, I need to help my wife and calm her down. But it's really ultimately my job. It's great, and I'm very thankful that he's helped out tremendously, but I need to figure a lot of this out also.
When we were in Web3 big time in 2022, this woman, Augustina, she said something provocative. It was, I am responsible for my own orgasm. And I was like, whoa. I'm like, say more about that. She's like, yeah, I'm responsible for my own orgasm. And when I receive help from others, I'm really receiving it because I know I'm responsible for my orgasm. And it's very similar to that of regulating the nervous system. It's like when Shelly's, okay, I need to regulate my nervous system, right? But then if I offer help and she's willing to receive that help, then it's even better for her. It adds up exponentially because she is sovereign in her own power, and I am going to regulate my own nervous system. And then if I say something like, hey, would you like to do an ice bath? Yeah, right? Actually, yeah. I would. Then suddenly she knows she's responsible for her own nervous system. I offered a suggestion, and if she takes it, then right. She's taking it from a place of sovereignty, power, and agency, not of me telling her what to do. Mm-hmm. And there's like that fine line distinction for men in particular to navigate with women. Like, men are always trying to solve the problem or rescue because we've been taught to do that. And then now it's like, I gotta stand back a little bit and let Shelly sit in her own shit. But then I'm like, are you telling me to let me know? Do you want me to just listen? Do you want comfort or do you want solutions? Mm-hmm. And like literally time out or pause and pull back, scan each other. That makes a huge fucking difference. Mm-hmm. Because then it's honoring her. So then it's a power to power discussion and not me trying to fix a
and then
problem,
me being
or vice
angry
versa.
That he's trying to fix it, even though I'm the one that came
That
and like trauma dumped and complained. That's what I'm just saying. That was what we saw going on in parts of our relationship.
What's the whole point
prior to us like turning this or realizing let's have a conscious relationship with one another, and then a conscious relationship with ourselves individually, having a lot more of this self-awareness and not so much of this run completely not being aware of anything, or if you were like not giving a shit.
That's the run. Mm-hmm. Is the hamster wheel. Yeah. Like in the caffeine book, it's literally you're running on the wheel, oh, have some caffeine, oh, keep working, and then you get home and you're just like exhausted because then the caffeine finally releases and all the adenosine hits your brain saying go the fuck to sleep, and you're like, why am I so tired at 4 p.m.? It's because the caffeine wore out and you blew out all of your other energy reserves, and it's okay.
Well, for me, it's figuring out like dopamine, because I had taken psych meds for so long, and now I am treating it holistically, which is regulating my nervous system, providing what it needs: sunlight, good food, movement, exercise, good company, music, sound therapy, supplements. There's so many like different things, but I didn't know. I just took meds and just became very blunted and very stunted, and then literally didn't even have a voice. I did not cry for 20 years. So then I'm storing in all of these emotions deep in my cells and altered my DNA, but now I've altered it back by going more to this holistic way of treating and dealing with my emotions and being aware.
Well, like when you talk about the DNA, if you perturb a system, the system will respond, and the DNA sequence might get upregulated to express proteins to deal with that issue, right, such as anxiety or depression or whatever it might be. The same is true if you start working out really hard. The DNA sections that code for more mitochondria will be expressed because you need more of them to be the powerhouse of the cell, right? And then what are you doing? What are you doing to support mitochondrial DNA, that expression? Or what are you doing in your body, right? Mm-hmm. And Shelly worked in the hospital for almost 20 years, having taken psych meds 10, 15 years before that for anxiety and depression. And it's like, when you suddenly, alcohol, you don't want to do that anymore, which was helping regulate your nervous system, working night shift, day shift, all over the place, then suddenly you get reconnected to your body and your femininity through like psychedelic mushrooms. Then all of a sudden, now you're in touch with your body and your flow and your phases and like getting out your IUD. And then all of a sudden your body's like trying to recalibrate,
Right.
going from bam, functioning in a 24-hour masculine schedule to, oh, her body is all of a sudden, oh, the IUD's out, I can actually have a flow. And I think part of this is her body getting reconnected to having a feminine cycle where she needs to support those phases of the cycle and also let her body get adjusted to seasons again, get adjusted to hours of the daylight again. Because like during this winter, like the seasonal affective disorder was really
It was really
rough for
this
her.
past season. That's
but
why,
let
like,
me just
today-
finish this one
okay.
little thing. So she's like seeing the phases. She's even, her body's even getting used to like, what does this season look like? Because I don't know if she's seen a season since she was like 20, and now it's 30 years later. She's her body's there's a winter and there's a fall and there's a spring and there's a summer.
I
and
was
so,
aware. Are you done?
No, but I'm just saying she's getting connected to her cycle daily, 24-hour, no more like caffeine all the time and energy drinks and
Right, because I want to be as present as possible and aware
monthly.
of all of my actions and things that
Just
I'm
let me say
doing.
this one part. 24 hours. She's getting connected with that. She's getting connected with monthly cycle, moonly cycle, whatever that looks like for her. Now she's take out the IUD, entered perimenopause. Whoa, okay. And then now seasonal, and now yearly cycle because she left nursing 2 years ago. So this has been a huge recalibration for her whole body, going from go grind to whoa full break, and then now it's like, where's the in between? Go
Right.
ahead.
I don't remember what.
I think what we
That's
should
the
do.
ADHD.
I think
No,
we
I-
need
I
to
think-
like we should write a clipboard because there's some
Probably,
times
you're
where
right.
I just want to jump in with one quick thing, and then it's gone,
Well, I
or,
think
or
what it,
vice versa.
I think what it is. Oh, there's Chris.
Oh,
You want to pause it or no?
I can't pause it
How come?
because it's on record.
Oh, okay. That's fine.
Yeah. So we're doing a podcast. I'll come see you later. I think ours is full too.
Take a look.
Is it full, Chris?
What about using Mike?
Mike's full too.
Oh.
Hey, go get theirs.
I
Yeah.
think they'll get.
Yeah. I'll just let them know. Bye. Yeah, speaking of seasons,
Okay, so what I was gonna say is.
so Chris has been over in the various neighbors' houses, pruning everything, right? Cleaning up. That's part of like your body know like, okay, it's time to get the winter stuff out and shake all
Yeah.
these winter emotions out and all this junk out, and then now coming into spring, it's like time to tidy up, time to let go, full moon, right?
Not that I was realizing.
That's the thing too. You know, you're always trying to show it perfect on camera, and things come up, and you handle them in the moment, and instead of getting like, oh God,
So
our
what I was-
podcast is ruined.
So what? It's not.
No,
so
no.
what I was trying to say is that a lot of times what happens is I try and be in the moment as much as possible, because when you're in the presence, then I notice that my mood is better. I feel good. I'm embodied. I have no pain. I'm just like, it's almost like I'm in a flow, or I am in a flow. Things get done, and then I turn around and I'm like, I did all that. 'Cause you're unaware. You're embodied. You're completely united in your mind, body, and your spirit.
When you're embodied.
When you're embodied.
You have your own sacral energy,
Yes.
plus the energy of the universe,
Yes.
because it's aligned, and then suddenly it doesn't feel difficult,
Right.
because you're no longer like using 3D
Right.
energy.
So what
Right?
I noticed over the last 5 or 6 months, because this winter, and I'm hearing it from other people within the collective, it's been like just really hard, really heavy, not a lot of movement going on. And now that the sun is out, today it's not, and I feel it, and that's why I'm showing up though. I do feel the sun not being out. I feel very much a heaviness over myself, but I know it's a temporary thing, because then I know the days where it's like sunny out and I feel fucking amazing, and I'm like really utilizing a lot of different energies and stuff. And so that's why it's just really important to honor the really great days that you have, and set yourself up so then on the days that it's like you're not maybe high vibing or feeling it or whatever's going on, you have things in place that you can continue to work on.
So speaking of honoring our bodies, I'm gonna go pee real quick and come back.
That's fine. Anyway, so I just was noticing that as I am noticing the cycles within the difference in the weather and stuff, how much the cold affects me. So during the winter, I'm a lot more affected by the cold than I was in the past. In fact, it made me feel like I didn't want to get up in the morning, but like really coldness, like down to your bones, like and I was like really leaning into that and doing some meditation and talking to my higher self. And it just came from some past experiences, even some past experiences that maybe I'm not even like aware of, like past life type of stuff. And the cold does affect me in that way. So then it's like setting myself up to feel warmth within my body when I wake up in the morning. So that was something that had occurred to me, but not seeing the sun on many of the days. I started doing some red light therapy and that really helped. But then there's still this like part of me, the like little ego that doesn't want to allow myself to do these self-care things like red light therapy, like exercise, yoga, meditation even. Like I really backed off my meditation, even though like I love meditation. I get beautiful messages. I get grounded and feel like alive in my body and creative, but there's just some subconscious stuff that kind of has trickled back in, and so I'm working on uniting all of those forces together.
Yeah, like it's almost like sometimes you could meditate or it would make you feel better, but I'm saying you in general, like I'll do it too. Like you don't want to actually be better because you've been so conditioned to be complainers and be the victim.
Yeah.
That it's, how do you get out of the victim?
It's almost like being afraid to be better. And that's what I'm saying. I've really noticed afraid. And I've really noticed that over this winter months. And then I've just noticed like certain foods I've really got bored with. So we're working with someone to help us with boredom with food because we were so used to eating out, and the eating out provided like an additional component. And I mean, that's groovy and all, but a lot of times when I'm out in large groups or settings, like I feel drained by the energy in the room as much as like I, work crystals and protect myself. I just feel drained. I like go home and I'm like, I just feel drained and I don't necessarily have a great time. And so then I just have leaned into a lot of those messages, and it doesn't happen all the time. And I think it's a cyclical thing, but I also felt during the winter time, it was really just a lot heavier than stuff had been in the past. I mean, I gained 20 pounds.
Yeah, but if we look at animals and we look at them during winter, what do? They pack on
hibernate.
The full pounds.
Yeah, and that's what I'm realizing.
They go inward. They rest.
I'm realizing that like the way we are as humans is during the winter months, it's like when you rest and you plan out for your summer, your spring, and your fall. And so I'm like, that's the lifestyle, or that's the life that I wish to create, because that's really what my body is like correlating with.
I want to be where it's sunny all the time. We could go to Flagstaff, or we could go somewhere like Mexico or whatever, but then you have different weather elements. Like in Flagstaff, it'll be 30 degrees for 2 months straight, but it'll also be sunny every day.
Right, and that's for me, the sunny part is what I really need. So if it's going to be cold, I need to have it with some sun. But the other thing too, as I was going to say, is in the past, I knew seasons based on what was the marketing displays being shown in the stores. So that's how I correlated without actually feeling. So fall, like the brisk falling of the leaves, how things are starting to change,
time to buy
the
candy.
wind. Yeah, it was more like the marketing way. And then Christmas or wintertime, it was like Christmas related. And that was how I was correlating the seasons, was based off of what holiday was going to take place. And now I'm like, I would much rather be able to take in the messages that the universe gives me with the weather and the animals and the leaves and the trees. And that is my jam way more than advertised to for a holiday.
Like fall comes and the trees let their leaves fall to remind you to let go of shit you no longer need.
And that's what I'm trying to say, is there's so many messages from the universe in each of the seasons, and we've forgotten about that. I forgot about that as a human, and I want to go back to remembering that, and then also remembering the simpler times of how you utilize the seasons to maximize your energy, to maximize your love and your gratitude, and for lack of a better word, your output, whatever that means to you.
I was in Liz Letchford's Body Church, and they were like doing breath work, and then imagine a flower blooming. And I would think that would be like a deep breath to bloom, right? But if you really think about it from like a physiological standpoint of a plant, to bloom, to push all of that fluid up, to open the petals, you actually have to contract in. And so, like she was saying, take your breath and contract it in and then bloom yourself. And I was like, whoa, that was opposite of what I thought. But then the springtime, it's, yeah, man, put in that inner work and lift the weights and bloom yourself, wherever you are in your body or your life or whatever. And it's like, that's the whole point of the winter, is to gather up, relax, let things be where they are, have community with people.
I feel like a lot of the stuff from the winter, like emotions that like came up, like they're continuing to come up. That's going to be normal until I integrate them. So like some of the shadows that came up are coming up now, but I feel like now I'm able to integrate them because I've been able to have this complete self-awareness about like what is triggering me to act this way or to think this way or to do these things. Whose story is it? But then to make the tangible result changes that I can feel, like where you get the full body chills, you feel it mind, body, soul, and you're like, okay, this makes sense. I'm able to, move forward and integrate all these different aspects of myself. So I feel like right now in the springtime, it's being able to reflect back and the self-awareness of the different things that came up, the challenges and the messages in the wintertime. So
yeah, and then
that's what I'm noticing.
Then you have summer where you just go all out. You got the sun, a light most of the day. You've got, for humans, you've got vitamin D going, D3 going to vitamin D to giving you like your sex hormones for everybody. That's part of the cycle and the conversion in the summer season is like outward expansion, right? Then when that's done, you have fall and you're like letting go. It's like those little balls that we always bring to all the events, the expansion contraction ball. It's like summer, okay, you let in new information. What are you doing on vacation and everything? And what are you going to do with it? And then as you come back down to ground state, like electrons ground state, okay, what are you going to do? And then in the winter, you go a little bit more inward. And then you come back outward. And it's like this push-pull. It's like you go to the beach. How do you ride the waves? Some waves have to go in and some waves have to go back out. And it's like the constant ebb and the flow. And it's like, you have to ride your emotional cycle too. You have to ride the seasonal cycle. You have to ride your hormone cycle. If all those things go to this, then you're in high frequency anxiety and you're not enjoying the high and the low and deciding on something. You're just, next thing, caffeine, food, right. Gotta do this thing, gotta go. And it's
and that's what happened. That's why it became a big trauma dump, because working in the environment I worked in, they never provided the right resources. And I mean, it didn't matter if there was a pandemic or not. We were understaffed at all times. And my way of coping, besides alcohol and substances and whatever, was to literally come home and just dump on Austin or dump on friends. And I didn't realize it. So that became the frequency that I vibed with. Anything that like went wrong, I had to like immediately tell him in a way as though I was expecting him to solve it. But really it was just like me expressing it out instead of just saying, okay, this is like to see.
Well, it started.
I think if I had been, because there were moments in my career that I saw what the messages were as far as like how I could get through and solve some of the dilemmas I was having. But then I think it just, over time, probably once my addiction became really severe and you picked up a lot of the slack in many ways, I think that's when I just relied on you for all of that. And so then it's just like extracting myself from that behavior.
Yeah, and like for me, it's like not rescuing.
Yes, the not rescuing, because I wanted him to rescue. I wanted to come and trauma dump.
How do you not rescue someone that you love? Like usually men want to fix a problem.
Right.
But like women have to be willing to receive that help. Right. And if they're not, then it's like it's really tricky and challenging.
Because I also started realizing I became resentful when I was trauma dumping. And let me know if this makes sense to anyone else, DM me or put it in the comments, that I became resentful of the advice he would give me. Because it wasn't what I wanted to hear. I literally had concocted
I don't even think
story.
You knew what you wanted to hear.
No, I had concocted something in my mind and I wanted to hear something very specific, or because I wasn't like aware of the help that he was actually providing. And I was more going down the route of what he wasn't helping with. And so I wasn't happy. I wasn't hearing what I needed to hear. Exactly. I had zero gratitude for anything. Instead, I just wanted to continue trauma dumping.
One one of my friends, he was like, what you got to do is find out what she's saying and why she's saying it. So I started kind of interrupting a little bit. Hey, are you just letting me know? Do you want me to analyze it? Am I just
because
listening?
I also became resentful, even though I was trauma dumping. I didn't want him to tell me jack shit, because then I felt he was mansplaining. But now I recognize he wasn't. He was legitimately trying to help me, but I was so caught up in my own shit that I was angry he was trying to tell me what to do. That wasn't what I wanted.
Really challenging is she talks really fast. And so when I was trying to hear what she said on the phone, and I have trouble hearing on the phone, it was like really taxing for me to try to hear every detail to offer some solution. Because that was because
I was so hyped up on 2 energy drinks a day or caffeine and like whatever. And then I would just talk a mile a minute. There were a few times we had at work where people thought I had a stroke because I was talking so rapidly fast that I started not making sense and I was scrambling all of my words. And I feel like I just couldn't. I felt uncomfortable in a regulated nervous system. Like, it felt better for me to be crazy like that, talking in a rapid succession, but just like, then just to be regulated, take a deep breath and talk about it. And I'd much rather have that sort of energetics going on than the way it was before.
Well, and then she went from that, and years go by, going to management and all the stuff, and then it was like, I'm going to go to work today, and I want to get a soda.
Right.
No,
because
like, seriously, she was talking that slow. I was thinking, does she need to go to a brain specialist? Is this early Alzheimer's? Like, what is going on here? And it's back to the cycles thing. You can't operate in that stuff forever. Eventually you're going to get sick, crash out. It's going to cause
But it was
disease.
also taking, I took psychiatric meds for a long time, and the answer when I wasn't feeling better or progressing, it was like to change the med and do something else. So then it was just a continual brain fog. But then if you're in a dysthymic state, which means you're just in like basically it's a low vibe state, but it's stable. It's a stable low.
But you were doing
so
well.
Exactly. And you're not like up and down. You're not worse than you are, and you're not better, but you're okay. So that's an acceptable way within the psychiatry. And so I think I just resigned myself. I became beyond overwhelmed because I couldn't speak what I needed. The meds suppressed it, the alcohol suppressed it, lifestyle, not speaking up, not having boundaries, not dealing with emotion, like having suppressed emotions.
Well, I think that was a big reason why you got reconnected with femininity, to yourself, to your creativity. Like, she came back from her psychedelic trip in 2022. It was like, I want to get on all my photography gear, and I want to do NFTs. And I'm like, honestly, I was happy just to have some sort of excitement from her, whatever it was.
And then it's been the last 2 years of like literally unpacking and rewiring my brain, because
and your nervous system,
and my nervous system, and regulating it and being okay with this new way of being, because I didn't realize that my mind functioned in a way that I had anxiety 24/7. I never felt in a relaxed state.
Recently you said something interesting, is like, you said anxiety is made up.
It is. I'm convinced of it. Mm-hmm.
And
yes.
I'd love to hear more about that and how it's related to this cycles thing.
Okay, so I think anxiety is a man-made thing that comes from outside of us, and it's stuff that the stories that have been told to other generations, and then, our families and the stories they tell, and then our experiences and the people that we're around, and it shapes like the core of us. And so, because I notice, like, I'll hear ambulances and stuff, and I will get triggered sometimes. Other times I'm not triggered. It's a default network for people, and so I think that's what happens in the anxious state, because I believe, from the age of 10, I developed anxiety, and I developed these thoughts that I wasn't good enough, and this is 10. This was 10. And there was a specific, very traumatic incident that occurred. I had a teacher that told me that I was fat, or told my family. And then my parents were looking out for me and started taking me to doctors to help me to figure out, like, losing weight and stuff. But looking back, I wasn't fat, if that makes any kind of
Well,
sense. But I mean, it's a whole complicated system, because if you look at how the advertising was, if you look at how the medical community, if you look at how mainstream media were talking about like obesity in a way that it was not acceptable, and it was very shameful, and then it became very blameful, but then it was also very, systems were put in place, or like programs were put in place, but you still weren't able to express your emotions. You just needed to check the box and lose the weight. Exercise, decrease what you eat, and drink your water. You'll lose weight.
And
nobody
like,
wanted to address the emotional symptoms of any of this going on. And so that is basically, I'm 49 now, and so you have 35 years of this subconscious programming, of this anxiety of not being good enough for people. And that's why today I was like, I'm just going to show up as myself. I'm going to show up with the acne that I have right now. I'm going to show up like just living who I am instead of having a mask on, because really, from 10 years old on, I had a mask on, not realizing that I had to appear to be,
I think that's
something else.
That's the constructed anxiety.
Yes.
Trying to fit into what you think
Yes.
other people want you to fit
Yes.
into, so that you're not looked at in a way that you feel shame
Yes.
or guilt or whatever, because I think genuinely we want to fit in with others.
Yes.
Like, we are community-based organisms, and we want to have community. But as time has gone on, people have realized that, if you control community or make it so it's hard to have community, then it's easier to control people because you fractionize them.
It's as though, I remember when I was a kid, I would look at teachers as being perfect, just like I looked at my parents as being perfect. And now I realize nobody is fucking perfect. Okay, nobody. Everybody has problems. Everybody has emotions. Everybody poops and pees. Okay, everybody poops and pees. So it's like when we put people on these different pedestals, that also gets subconsciously programmed into us.
Yeah, that puts us in a triangle trap.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's just appear as you are and be who you are and do it unapologetically. I'm not going to apologize for appearing in my bathrobe doing this today. That's just where I'm at. But I'm fucking here.
Yay.
So.
You're being, see? So, like, just to circle back on all of that, it's like women in general have been told to eat a certain way, to be a certain way, and then you get anxiety of trying to eat that certain way. What we've learned is Shelly worked with a bodybuilder coach, and we were working on tonal and this and that, and what we were realizing is, like, Shelly's like, I haven't fueled up or hydrated correctly my entire life for my body because I've been told not to do it that way.
I've been told to starve myself to be skinny my entire fucking life, even in the old diet industry and stuff. And I feel like the millennials really brought on board tying in nutrition with, that's I think when CrossFit started to really come out, with your movement, your exercise, your strength training, that your circuit training. I mean, this wasn't really around. It was like, go to the gym. And you didn't see a lot of the women like pushing weights unless you were at like a women's gym.
What's so crazy is this,
and now it's like the women, and I look at their bodies and I'm like, because it's incredible the amount of, I didn't see that reflected in my generation.
So back to the hormone talk, right? There's a woman researcher, exercise fitness lady, Stacy Sims. Then there's two other ladies, Dana something, I don't remember, but her book is named Quench. In Quench, they talk about how even though, drink a gallon of water a day, or women too, they don't have the water in their cells. And guess what operation needs water to make your sex hormones? You need water so the enzymes can help convert vitamin D3 to vitamin D to precursor to make your sex hormones. So if you're crashing out in your phases after ovulation, are you actually hydrated? Not do you drink a gallon of water a day, do you actually have the hydration and nutrients in your cells so that proteins can fold and unfold and make those reactions happen? So how do you stack the deck in your favor? You have to be hydrated and fueled up. And guess what they have told women for all these years? Just to drink a gallon of water a day, and you can have tea, and you can have coffee, and go to Starbucks. Don't
forget all your diet
don't
shit.
forget to get
Zero
your diet sugar
or whatever
bullshit.
They're calling it now.
And then they tell women, you don't want to lift too hard because you don't want to get manly muscles. But guess what? Where does water hide? Water likes to hang out in muscle tissue. So these women that are working out for their booty to get all big are actually doing themselves a huge favor with hormone regulation by getting the water into their muscles, into their body, so that they can synthesize their hormones from their body. You are your own alchemist.
It's a lot of unpacking, but I think we're.
And this is the funny part, right? Shelly, I'm like, hey babe, you want some water? She doesn't want.
I also can tell when I'm in the start of my period because I actually start craving diet soda. I'm a diet soda person. I always have been, and I crave it. So I all of a sudden want the bubbles and stuff like that. So then
if you're from a physiological standpoint, if you're craving bubbles, it's probably because your calcium is low, and the bubbles will help get calcium out of your bones and into your bloodstream. But this is what happens. Like, people take calcium pills, but the particle size of the calcium is so big that it doesn't get into the cell anyway. And that was a thing that they said in Quench, the book Quench, was you gotta get the calcium and the nutrients and stuff into the cell, and the way you do that is bringing the fluids in through vegetables and fruit. What do they tell you? Oh, you don't want to eat too much fruit because that's sugary, but it's okay to eat your double pump shot lattes frappuccino thing, right?
Mm-hmm. I think we're going to wrap this up because going forward in the future, they're just going to be 5 or 10 minutes, and we'll have very specific topic of stuff that we've. I
noticed we covered a lot of
stuff. We covered way too much.
Yeah.
This is what I'm talking about. I want to be able to have it very 5 to 10 minutes of very specific things, and we'll put it in the title of things that we've been through, things that we've accomplished, but then also, and then how we did it, and then we definitely would love to hear input from everybody else. Let us know your experiences or any aha moments, or maybe things that you've tried that were successful for you or you've heard about, because this is all about building community and helping one another. It's not about gatekeeping the information and whatnot. And then also,
what do you want us to take on?
Yeah.
And what are you taking on,
and
so
then
we can work together?
We'll be like just going about our little town or city and just doing our own things. We realized like we were giving away our best ideas to people, and it's no, let's do this ourselves. Like, let's talk to entrepreneurs and business owners and like how they utilize self-care, how they like fit in spirituality or Christianity or that kind of thing within their business and their life, and then how they make an impact on their community and stuff. So
let's do this live in real time. Let's integrate this in real time with that method that I was doing.
Okay.
So this is probably about 45 minutes or more in, because Shelly's kind of
and
tanking.
I'm like annoyed that you want to integrate it. So this is a shadow of mine. So I'm just going to take a deep breath because others might find enjoyment in this just because I don't. Or maybe I do. I don't know. I'm shadowy right now.
In past things, they actually said they like to see it because it gave them.
I know they do. They want to see integration. Because people don't understand when we throw around integration, and you're right. I throw it around all the time, and then I'm sitting here fucking resisting it.
Or drinking water.
Okay.
Okay.
I also have 2 things of caffeine.
So we're drinking Big Coffee. Big Coffee is basically, it's Arabica beans, but not too much caffeine. It has wheatgrass in it and a bunch of other stuff. Wheatgrass is known to give you some energetic boost without so much of the caffeine binding to your brain, right? Mm-hmm. So check that out. We're also working with a local naturopathic doctor who has an ingredient supplement store, Green's Nutrition in Stockton. And so a lot of the supplements that we've been trying and talking are from her, and we've been collaborating with her, and we're looking to help her launch some things and get online too, because she's like a wealth of information.
Right.
And then we're working with Motherlicious to put together some conscious food eating things, because like we said, now that we're not eating so much emotionally, now we're like
eating out, and then we have to plan. And there's a whole bunch of things I'm like realizing, and then especially when we're going and doing festivals and there's a lot. That's why we wanted to just create like this channel like daily and just talk about what we've learned, and then let's integrate this.
And I'm bringing it together. See, this is the teacher part of me.
I'm convinced he also has ADHD. So anyway, let's go.
Oh, my ADHD was roaring earlier. Luna came by and I saw her in the mirror to the camera, and I wanted to tell you.
Isn't that like OCD?
I
don't know. It doesn't matter because titles, like when you get with titles, then you can stay stuck in it, and then you don't rise above it, because then it's I can't do this because
of my, yes. And then put in your diagnosis.
Or then you want to be fit in because I thought that, so I must have it, and that might be some truth to it, but is it really truth, or are you living your life due to a story? Okay, let's tie this in, because I'm gonna go on and get more fucking feisty and.
Let's actually integrate in real time. It's pause, pull back, body scan. Pause, we know we should probably wrap up. Pull back, we're pulling back, and then checking in with my body. I probably have to pee again.
I gotta eat.
I probably need to eat. You need to eat too? Okay. It's probably around 11 a.m., I would guess, maybe 10. And, okay. So we wanted to wrap up and give you some things that we're working on. If you want help with both of us, awesome. Connect with us. Let's do that. We have an intake form you can fill out. It's very informative as you do it. If you need help filling it out, you can do that live with us one-on-one.
But we also help businesses grow via social media and like YouTube and podcasts with your expertise. That's also something that we're very passionate about because we see how powerful social media can be for a brand. And so we love supporting like local mom and pop places.
Yeah, we've had really good luck with that. Bringing our Web3 knowledge to brick and mortar is what we've been doing, and then we've helping people
entrepreneurs here
optimize their business and flow, help them with any energy leaks that they have, so that they have more time for themselves to connect with themselves. So if any of that sounds good to you, hit us up. Now let's do the integration part. You ready?
Right.
Okay, I call it the one thing. Like, what's the one thing you're gonna do going forward? And my students at school used to be, hey, yeah, we already know. What went well, not so well, what do you want to try, blah, blah, blah. Okay, we got it. Okay, so what went well today?
Us just appearing and showing up and getting this off the ground went very well.
Being consistent.
Just, I think that's really huge for
showing
us.
up no matter how we look or
I'm in my
feel.
fucking pajamas. I basically
And
told
she's
everyone
got her
I
little
pissed myself
blankie.
this morning because like I had a coughing fit, and it's just okay. So we're having like some stuff going on, but I want to be transparent because I'm a human, and there are ways to deal with it in an unshameful way.
We want to show you what this looks like in real time. Like, how do you be in business with your boo?
Right.
Obviously, she's done, right? So we're wrapping this up. What went not so well?
I think having more I want to have more structure when we speak to everyone, and that will start occurring. And then I just want to do 5 or 10 minutes, so we have a little timer here.
And some cue cards maybe or something?
Something like that.
If you're neurodivergent or any of that, you could Voxer yourself and then put that in ChatGPT and organize your podcast.
Right.
We've done that before, too.
And then from there, we just like release once or twice a day.
What went not so well?
Oh, see, I already want to go. What's
this
the
is
next
the framework.
stop? That's the like checking the box of okay, we're done. Let's go. That was what I said. Was like just a little bit more organization, more structure, not so like all over the place.
Keeping it to a certain amount of time.
Keeping it to a certain time because also I lose my energy and I lose my train of thought, which is fine. I mean. But at the same time, like sometimes it's stuff I'm working on because I could go in a shameful space, and then when I go in a shameful space, I lose my energy. And it's not a true story. It's somebody else's story. It's stuff I'm working on. It's those reflections and the awareness of, oh, that's an energy leak because I get irritated by this. But why am I really being irritated by this? What about it is bothering me? I think for here and the structure, I don't want to be talking like just fucking toss the salad bullshit.
Toss the salad.
Yeah, I want to have a very structured thing so then people come and they want to every single day be like, what are they going to say? How are they going to act? Like what's going on in their world. But I want to have them get true value because they're using their time to watch and support.
It's like being on point, honoring their time, honoring your time, honoring our time. I would agree with most of those on not so well. To try next time, probably have an outline, stick to the topics, have a time limit or topic limit. And then shoot multiple pieces of content. This was good to get going again because we've been doing our own thing. But
do we have a little button we can stop it? Because we have a neighbor come by and stuff like that, or car. Like, is there like a pause button?
Not really pause. If we filmed with Zoom, we could pause it.
Oh, yeah.
But I was doing it on the iPhone with the camera. Okay, I think we know what to try. So what's one takeaway? Or what's one thing that you want to do right away with this information?
Create an outline for the next one.
You could actually take this transcript and turn it into an outline.
Yes, because I feel like there's some stuff like I'd like to dive into a lot deeper, especially because of our background and just the different crazy things that I've been through. I've observed. I mean,
And some stuff's going to go on Patreon because of what we're going to say, but...
Right. I think a lot of our psychedelic information will be on Patreon.
Yeah.
It'll be...
That way we could really speak
very
freely
affordable
with you.
each month, but then we can speak and help people really to tap into their body and their body wisdom, whether they're utilizing psychedelics or not. You can do it with anything. I was just telling Austin last night, we do acupuncture, and like I was having a psychedelic experience in acupuncture. Like, it's just, for me, it's about getting grounded and just allowing my mind to take me where I want to go. And then next thing, I was like in an experience. I was in my own portal that I created with my own mind, and it was just beautiful.
What I think is happening with that, which is another podcast, is the needles help you rechannel your energy, and you get into your body. And the moment you get into your body, you get to go into your mind and out of your mind into the quantum, and then you get to bring that back down into your body.
Yes.
And that is like the psychedelic life experience.
Yeah. Then that's where I can, or you can go in there and do some like deep reprogramming in your subconscious with the awareness and stuff.
Unprogramming and unlearning is way the fuck harder than learning to do something. Like, to put somebody on a hamster wheel, that's fucking easy. To get them off the hamster wheel, that's fucking tough, because you have to have support and structure so they feel the consistency of what do they call it? Hamster wheel? Mm-hmm. With being able to move forward in what their own wants, needs, and desires are.
Okay, what was the last question so we can wrap this up? Because we drifted again.
I let you mansplain.
I'm curious if you think I mansplained. Let me know the areas you think Austin mansplained, okay? I'm like, really, these are shadows. I'm just saying. It's ways in which you can improve upon yourself or be aware, whether you agree with it or not. Okay, let's wrap this up, because now I'm really antsy. Plus, our neighbor just got home, and he's like staring at us, and I'm like...
Which neighbor? Oh, there's a bunch of neighbors.
The one across the street with all the cats.
Because they want to know what we're saying.
They are.
We can post it online, but we're like shy at this moment.
Okay, let's go. Gotta go. Okay, I'm hungry. I'm feisty. I'm over this. Why I'm a bit over it is because I feel like, even though we talked about, but I just feel like I did go on, and so now I'm like, okay, let's go and do it tomorrow, because then I want to improve upon it, and that's how you do it each fucking...
So that's the integration piece right there. That's the piece. Whatever you learned or I learned, we immediately put it into action tomorrow. That's the one thing. That's the one thing you do. So is that your one thing? Mm-hmm. You're going to go through this, you're going to make a thing, and you're going to do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right? Or later today, because we're going to film our 420 burning flowers.
Yeah, but I'm keeping that to 5 minutes. No more. I'm like serious. I'm just going to let them know. Because I'm not going to go like the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm more just going to say we went to our first event and how it went. And we hope that there's future ones, and we hope that there's more in the future, and we'd love if...
Well, we're preparing for the Goddess Festivals in Sacramento at Cal Expo in August, and then we have the Goddess Festival in Yosemite in October, and then they're planning one more. And so it's...
Yeah, so we have a whole bunch.
We want to... Now people are like, I want to buy something.
And we also will have books out by then,
yeah.
So there's a whole bunch of things happening, and... Okay, let's wrap this up. Because now I'm also cold, and I'm a little grouchy. I'm sorry. Well, why am I saying I'm sorry? Like, why am I saying I am. I'm a little bit grouchy because I'm a little bit, like expanded. And now I want to bring it in and get grounded and
So you can ground with food. You can take a break. You can take a nap. After these calls, like, sometimes we go, or videos or whatever, sometimes we need to get grounded. Like, lay in the grass, walk in the grass, step on rocks, step on an acupressure mat, eat food. Drink some water, have a hot tea, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You can have sex too. That's a good way to
Yeah. Not right now, though. I'm on my luteal. Not feeling it at all. Sorry, babe.
So you gotta, as a man too, you gotta use... That's another podcast.
Okay, let's...
Okay,
because now the neighbor's gonna come by with the trash.
So you know what you're gonna do? I know what I'm gonna do.
Yes, I do.
Okay. See you next time.
Bye. Should he leave it out on the curb?